Welcome.
How are you?
Is this thing working? Is it following me? No. It's recording, but I went out of frame.
Well, excuse me. Is that a 5?
Roundtable typically just turns into a discussion. All right.
Okay. So I can stay to this side so I don't block out the screen. It is, yeah. You just can't move too fast. I can't jump. It doesn't. Oh, it did. It caught me. Yeah, it is a little creepy. Don't pick that up.
So is this the round table?
This is the round table, yes.
Change it.
No, it was another round table that was changed. It was the sport club ones, yeah. This is a round table for sport officials.
It's not intramurals?
This is intramurals,
Oh, it is. Oh.
sport officials for intramurals.
Oh. Let's give it a go.
What time are we supposed to start this one? 11:15? Oh, it's supposed to start at 11:10. Okay.
I'm supposed to have a roundtable tomorrow morning, but I've never been to one before, so this is gonna help.
Oh,
me for
it's
tomorrow.
roundtables are just essentially just open discussions. They're
Okay, good.
yeah, there's not a lot of structure to them.
Fantastic. Oh, thank you. Can I freeze? Oh gosh, thank you.
Which one are you doing, Stacey?
What family are
Taylor,
you?
thanks. There's all three of us. Me and Tim holding down the Taylor family.
Okay. Do you want to smile for it, or you want me to
Oh.
do one?
I don't smile during presentations. It's a serious time. Ian, I'm getting a photo.
Okay, here you go.
He's photobombing it.
Yeah.
We're doing it's in terminals one.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Are you?
Yeah.
That's as long as we can hear you from back there, which I don't think will be a problem.
You got a heckler on the side, too. We get him from both angles.
Yeah, thanks guys. A lot of support. I love it. Should give them another minute for people to filter in, or is there still some people moving around? So
Clearly they're messing in Jamil all my stuff.
You no longer.
Find a new position on the return on Monday. I just want to see them stay. Apparently they do.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to get started. My name is Genevieve. I'm from the University of Calgary. I work with intramural sports here at Active Living. I'm a league coordinator for ice hockey and ultimate frisbee, so that keeps me pretty busy. That's my boss.
no bias.
Zero bias whatsoever. I'm here to introduce Tristan Brown, who has spent the last 2 years as a recreational volunteer, 6 years
Nope.
as a recreational professional.
Other way around. Professional. I was a volunteer, then a professional.
I'm just reading what they
Yep.
gave.
I probably wrote it down wrong. That's probably my fault.
He's a level 1 Ultimate Canada certified coach. There you go. He needs to come work for me. And level 1 Basketball Canada certified umpire. So please join me in welcoming Tristan Burke.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining me here today. So, the purpose behind this this roundtable is to come together and figure out what we are doing across Western Canada for our sports officials that is best practices across the board. I'm sure every one of us does something really well, but I doubt all of us do everything really well. And seeing how sport officials is one of the few things that is pretty standardized across the board, it's something that's very easy to understand for no matter what type of school you're at, no matter what size. If you've got intramural programming, you're going to have sport officials for them. One thing I want to make sure it's clear is I'd rather not discuss how much we're paying our officials, because that's obviously going to be dictated heavily by our budgets and support and things like that, and it's usually something a lot of us don't have a lot of control over anyways. The budgets are usually set. We make the hours fit within those budgets. So if possible, I'd like to stay away from hourly wages and things like that in terms of discussions, and just think about the other opportunities, the other resources we have within our departments to support the developing strong officials that we can then send back out into the community once they're through graduated with us. First thing I'm going to ask is if anybody would be kind enough to volunteer to write notes. I have the penmanship of a 2-year-old. I can't read my own writing. A day after I wrote it, university was hard before laptops. So yeah, I'm just going to break this down into 6 different sections here. And what I would like to do is go through each of these sections, identify what the different schools represented here are doing, where you guys are finding particular success, and ways in which maybe we can adapt those to different situations. Cool? Excellent. All right, so recruitment. Obviously, this is the first step in establishing an officials program. You need to actually have bodies to fill those spaces. Where are you guys finding these people to fill those spots? Are you using different media and resources? Are you recruiting throughout the semester, or just is it one big recruitment session at the beginning of the year? So I'd like to hear from you guys, especially for those of you who feel like this part of your program is really successful. What are you guys doing, and how is it implemented? Nobody thinks they're doing recruitment successfully?
Well, I don't work that closely with intramurals for UVic, but I do know that we target res students because they're so close, so we have lots of connections there, so we work really closely with the res life, the community leaders.
Right.
So people that already are working on campus, same with the athletes as well, the varsity athletes, we have a bunch of those.
Yeah, we recruit heavily from the varsity athletes. We find they generally have a bit of an attitude problem when it comes to officiating, but the good ones we're able to keep around for more than a year, and they actually start to get it. But okay, great. Res Life is something I think a lot of us use. Anything else?
Word of mouth.
Word of mouth.
And we post something on our website as well.
Okay, is anybody using things like Craigslist or any sort of off-campus opportunities, or using external bodies? I know U of A, you use some external bodies to do some of your officiating.
Basketball, hockey, ball hockey, and soccer all through the city's officials groups.
And do you guys have a set contract with them that says they must work a certain amount of hours with you before they go back into what I'm assuming making more money going back into the city?
Nope, not at all. We just send them our games, and they send us the officials. So
It's a lovely system.
it's an expensive system.
Yes, I can imagine.
But it's a lot easier. But we do we recruit internally for volleyball, dodgeball, energy volleyball.
So are you guys, most of the time you're using your on-campus job postings, the standard university methods, and then obviously your own websites? Would that be fair to say that's a pretty standard practice across the board?
Another large group's international students.
Absolutely, especially for soccer.
I was
Yet,
gonna say, even Facebook, like you're taking photos of the leagues and people are tagging their friends, just posting it on the page, and we have a big group of volunteers in res, so they'll go across campus and they'll reach out to other students just throughout their normal day, and they'll give little handouts well as our summer camp leaders. So we do orientation for them, and we also do a big orientation in September for everybody new.
Okay.
And then we make them aware of all of our services across the board. So people that may be working, let's say like 15 hours a week at the front desk, they might want some extra hours. So just making them aware of that.
Do you find that they might get a little overwhelmed? That's what we find with our orientation at UBC is everybody's trying to give them so much information that a lot of it just washes over, and then we just need to once again continue after that initial, pep rally, frosh week. It's called Imagine Day at UBC. It's just one day. It's kind of weak, where we then have to go back out into the community to reestablish ourselves because they've just been told, hey, join these 70, 80, 90 different opportunities here on campus. How many of you guys fill up, say, 90+% of your officials' positions in your first wave of hiring? Hands up if you do. Fill up 90% plus in your first wave, so your September wave is usually that successful. For those of you who didn't put your hands up, what are you guys doing after that to reinforce those numbers, to bolster those numbers? That's a tactic we've followed too most recently.
We've taken a complete honesty approach, and we've gone to our captains' meetings and to the people that are playing in the leagues and just said, this is the way that it's going to be. You're going to complain about the fact that there's no officials yet. None of you are willing to step up to do this.
Yep.
And so we've gone to the captains' meetings and said, in some where we think that it's not an appropriate sport to not have people, say, we will cancel games unless you guys step up.
Yeah, it's the safety issues, especially for things like your ice hockeys.
And we've got some people from captains' meetings that have stepped up. Actually, hockey's been fantastic this year, and basketball's been good that way.
So internal recruitment's a big part.
Players themselves, right? Gone to the players themselves.
Yep, that's a great source.
We actually require it from our flag football teams that will supply the head official, but that each team is responsible to supply a second official.
Interesting.
And there's a bond that they actually have to pay to make sure that they make their...
They actually ref some games?
Yeah.
No, that's a great idea.
That works okay.
Flag football is probably the one at UBC that we struggle the most to recruit. Once again, this is kind of stereotypical, but it wanes with our interest from American students. If we have a strong American presence, our football league is both full and well officiated. If for whatever reason that group isn't engaged, our numbers fall off, both participant-wise and officials-wise. But I know there's other leagues within the city of Vancouver that require that as a captain, you must officiate X number of games. Vancouver Dodgeball League comes to mind as one of those. So,
Tim, with that bond, is it on top of their league fees, or do they make them pay it extra?
It's on top of, and then I don't know. I'm curious to run that. So I think it's like $50 extra, and they get $25 back. They lose 25 if they miss one, and then they lose 50 if they miss two. If they make all, and they don't get a ton of games. Say it's 3 games they have to officiate, then they get all their money back.
Did you run into any admin issues with those or accounting issues?
Yeah, it's one of those ones on class. Normally there's a percentage that they're supposed to hold back, but we just waive it in that case.
What about with taxation?
Yeah.
I'm not sure how they dealt with that.
Yeah, payroll would seem to be a bit of an issue with that.
We got rid of ours. That's one of the major factors we had to get rid of our performance bonds. As the university said, it's nearly impossible to administer it correctly. We were actually charged GST on the funds that we would
Oof.
obtain, so it just became an administrative nightmare. And so we said it wasn't worth it anymore. It's too bad because I think there's lots of benefits from it.
And that's the only place we still have bonds. We used to have it in everything, and that's the only place now is flag football.
Is it just because of the difficulty you guys have in recruiting officials for that sport?
How do you find that the fair reffing happens when you basically have someone from an opposite team that's reffing?
Well, I think they try to always put them in a different division, so you won't be reffing the same division you're playing in. So I think that decreases a lot of it, and also they're not the head official, right? So that helps out quite a bit. But I mean, in my co-ed volleyball league that I play in, normally we ref our own division right after, and it's volleyball. It's a little different, but I just think what goes around comes around, so you have to be good because the other person's going to be reffing you next.
Yeah, they might get you in the playoff game. So, yeah.
Karma.
What about a cash bond?
Well, yeah, we don't want to be storing cash. That's probably a bigger problem for the university or
Oh, with PCI and yeah, that would be a nightmare.
Take cash or checks. Students are like, what are you?
What's a check?
Yeah. Robin, do you guys still do like when they default, then you collect the money?
Yeah.
So it's not a prepaid bond. It's like once you default, you pay. You can't play again until you pay.
Right.
Well, we did do that for a year-long dodgeball league, and so if they defaulted twice, they could pay to get back in. But kind of like a buy-in in poker.
Do you find that people just don't come back? 'Cause that's-
No, they wanted to play. The dodgeball's so popular, they were happy to pay it to come back.
That's our fear. Like if we punish them, then it'll just we have to redo the schedule and it's all on.
Beginning, and it works out great for us. And for 1 year, we tried the where you can just pay more if you, like, so we took $25 at the beginning, and then at the end, we changed it halfway through and said, okay, if you do all the you owe us money, and people just stop coming. Like, I'm not gonna pay again, so I'm just not gonna come back.
All right, we're sort of getting off topic here with bonds and reg fees and things like that. So let's move on to the next section here, which is onboarding, or the interview process, as I like to call it. How many of you guys do officials for every single official, or do interviews for every single official that applies? How many of you do your interviews personally as the professional staff? Wow, okay. How many of you have a mandatory officials meeting that people must come to before their training session?
There's a general meeting,
Is it,
to sort of get things organized.
How does that work? Because we're looking at.
And usually it's sport by sport. So we typically you try to engage one individual that has been doing it for a year or two and has a bit of a handle what goes on, and have them try to lead it.
We pay them. It's a mandatory meeting.
so is that sort of after they've been hired, or do you guys, after you've been hired, there's a mass, or is it by sport?
By sport.
By sport.
What I did first term was I had a mass meeting with all the officials, and then we broke up into focus groups. And we brought in professionals that weren't employed by us, but from, say, the community, from different leagues around the city.
Right,
and
okay.
they helped out.
Wow, that's,
Kind of,
yeah, we've tried bringing
But we
in
have to-
provincial organizations.
they won't show up.
If it's mandatory,
Yeah,
then because of our collective agreements with our student unions and whatnot, then we have to pay our fees. So it's been good, we tell them that's important, we tell them that it's mandatory, it's part of your employment, and so you're also getting paid, so you're expected to be there, and typically it's been pretty good.
and what do you guys cover in that mass meeting? Is that when you're going over most of the policies, your expectations, things like that?
Lots of general expectations.
Get the paperwork filled out.
The day in the life of, and then when they get into their focus groups is when they actually get into some of the, I wouldn't say particulars of officiating that particular sport, but the generals of officiating, like us. Yeah.
Conflict resolution.
Yes,
Yeah. Okay. You said they focus groups. What focus groups do you guys run?
Well, then, Riley would take care of all of our officials, and so he would get all of the officials for basketball and for flag football and for soccer and all those things together, and go over the orientation part, the admin part, the paperwork part all together, so you're not doing it a million times over.
Yeah.
And then after that, just the football referees would go with a community person and go over the particulars about officiating some football. And so then the focus group, then they get a chance to talk about just football and not.
Yeah.
They'd start with general officiating principles and then move into the particulars, because, well, similar to most of the other people in the room here, our leagues are somewhat modified from the typical
Yeah,
sports.
yeah.
Right? We go over the particulars of how our sports are different than regular football or regular basketball or those types of things.
I think a way to get buy-in from the community groups is to allow them to offer ref clinics on campus. So we bring in our volleyball and our basketball and our hockey people then we allow them to do a ref clinic on campus.
That's a great idea, yeah.
And that then gives them buy-in, because then in exchange, they'll come to our meeting and talk to our captains.
And I'm guessing most of the time they're expecting money for that, though? The community groups to come in?
Well, they're taking money from all the people that are coming to do the ref clinic. And so it's a way.
So are they both running a ref clinic and doing a recruitment?
Well, two separate.
Okay.
So we let them come in and run a recruitment ref clinic on campus, and then in exchange, we expect them to come to one of our meetings.
Training sessions, things like that.
Charge them for space when they come for their own personal recording.
We try to get it for free, depends on who's upstairs taking bookings.
Classroom services, yeah.
For your hiring your officials, where possible, do you require them to be certified?
Depends on the sport. Yes, for basketball, hockey. No, I don't care for volleyball. Dodgeball, good luck. Inner tube water polo, get your certification.
Well, that's a responsibility.
Yeah, no, really only for basketball and hockey. And soccer,
Lifeguards
sorry.
just do that, right? They just add some more duties to our lifeguards because they're guarding anyway, so we just ask that our lifeguards officiate.
Ooh, I like that.
Oh, I wish we were that close with our aquatic center.
Well, Kim allows us to do it, right? Otherwise, they're just, I shouldn't say just guarding, but they're just guarding.
Right, and if it's a low if there's nobody in the pool at the time.
You know, this way they're a bit more engaged in what they're doing as well. So, and it's not that much more on top of their regular duties. So
And you'll give them a t-shirt.
Yeah,
I like this.
T-shirts.
Yeah,
Well,
I think, yeah,
And then we just have roving on-site supervisors that they're not there every night, but they're there some nights to handle administrative stuff to make sure the league is still running smoothly.
okay.
Because the lifeguards don't necessarily know the ins and outs of campus rec, but the OSS would.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, now with regards to an orientation, so I'm talking about first aid procedures, how to deal with basic, what happens if there's a fire drill, what happens if somebody blows their knee out, things that are, not frequent but not uncommon. Do you guys do that during the onboarding, or is that part of their training that they do with more the specific sport skills?
So we have a second group of staff. So there's officials, then there's we call it activity monitors. So basically a timekeeper, a scorekeeper.
Yeah.
We'll have one of those people in the gym, not necessarily on each court,
Yeah.
in their gyms. It's their responsibility to deal with all the administrivia and what happens if. So the refs just ref, and these guys take care of signing in and all the rest. So they would know all that.
That's similar to how we operate. Our supervisors are the ones that get first aid training and things like that. How many of you guys require first aid or offer first aid to your officials?
We require at Recreation, we require everyone to have first aid training. We also have everyone that's supposed to complete a risk management course every semester, and it's a video course that we have, and they do a quiz at the end.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
We also have a full-time first aider that is on every night for our activities, that's on call to the different facilities.
Now, is that through phys ed, or is that through the university? Well, I mean, is that because at UBC we have actually a first aid?
It's through phys ed.
It is through. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, even the rest of our building, like athletics doesn't have it. They have their trainers. But
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's just specific to.
Okay.
All of the activities that we program take place in our own facilities, and so they don't have access to those facilities without a full-time staff person there. All of the full-time staff people are first aid, or first responders, first aid and CPR certified. So if there's an accident or something happens in our facility, we have a full-time staff person that takes care of those things. So we don't require our officials to have CPR first aid training.
So it'd be fair to say. Oh, sorry.
Outside their building, and then like field, we try to ensure that the people that are outside of the facility, like so in fields and remote locations that are still on campus but not close to that facility, then we require them. Try to require them to have that.
Right. But overall, it'd be fair to say most of us do not require our sport officials to have first aid training. So, no. Great if they have it, but. Anything else people are doing with regards to sort of before they get into that training session in terms of orientations or interviews or anything like that you guys are doing that you find is particularly effective? No?
Sorry, Tristan,
Yep.
do you just use the on-campus security? That's the mandate that you're meant to go with, is that you call campus security?
Well, no, all of our supervisors are first aid. Like our volunteer staff, which are our volunteer staff hire our paid staff.
Yeah.
They are all first aid, and we provide first aid for all of them. And we have at least 2 people on at every single facility that we're running.
Okay.
All right, the fun one. Training. How many groups offer mass training sessions? Really?
all the officials?
Yeah, for a specific sport.
Sports specific.
Sport specific. So you ideally, especially for those of you who have 90+% of your officials hired in that first wave, are you training them all at the same time in one location? I'm getting sort of yeses, sort of no's. Who does it differently? Who does one-on-one training with their staff or with their officials? Ian, you guys do?
Yeah, we almost, some of our sports we almost have to do because of the timelines when we start our league.
Okay.
Like our outdoor sports in the fall, we gotta start them up right away.
And it depends on the schedules, right? Because all of our staff are students. It's hard to like justify bringing everyone in at once. It's hard to find a time for
Right.
them to all come in at once. Especially, you can't tell someone not to go to class. Like, so.
But have you guys tried offering it at like 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. or?
The other duties / times as assigned?
Yeah.
for your jobs? Yeah, we do most of ours at non-traditional times, either early mornings, weekends, or evenings.
That's what I mean. That's traditionally when we run our programs is off traditional class hours. So we sort of expect our officials to be available to train at that point. What's that?
And if they don't show up, obviously they're not hired or scheduled.
Yeah. How do you guys determine who leads these sessions? Is it a returning official that's really strong? Is it a professional staff? Is it outsourced, as the case may be? How do you guys generally handle the leadership aspect of the training of your officials?
I was gonna say, I recently had, just last weekend actually, an officiating clinic, so it was general officiating information, but then I would have the most experienced ref of that sport, just because we also pull from like other sports, there's officials who might be in various sports.
Right, for sure.
So
Yeah.
it'd just be like general and, just like we go over scenarios and like the main points, like, it'd be a bit of a conversation and just going over clarifying rules and stuff. And then actually.
So is it on or sort of game training, or is it more just talking about things like these are the differences between our league and regular basketball or things like that?
Game sport specific.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Are,
then-
are they on the court for that?
Are they on the court? No, we did in a room, but then we also did like sport setup. So we would go over like how to set up a court, how it should look, where like the ref should be positioned. And last night we had like a separate ref because there's only that small group of refs. So
Right.
we just went over like ref stuff. So that was the only one that was separate from the general one.
Okay. How many of you guys offer a classroom portion for officiating before a practical component? Just UFC?
No, I'm at Mount Royal.
Oh, you're at Mount Royal. Sorry.
Tricky.
Yeah.
Whatever. Tell me what you want, Ian.
Notice they're on opposite sides of the.
I didn't. I didn't, but I do now. We do not offer a classroom portion at UBC, but I recently had a conversation with one of my refs who is a grad student who did her undergrad at Waterloo, and they do a 4-hour classroom session followed by a 4-hour practical session. Per sport. No, they get a break, but they do not feed them. It's paid, but
We use it at UFC, we get my 2 official coordinators to ideally get them all.
and so do you hire your official coordinators based on the fact that they're going to have experience reffing basketball, volleyball, and ice hockey, and the other guy's going to take care of, ball hockey, dodgeball, whatever, and so they're hired based on their already existing officiating skills? Okay, or as participants as well?
Our officials person is just a good administrator, right? They put all those things into place, and then we put those into the hands of, they're sports people, they understand what's going on.
Yeah.
Not necessarily officials in those sports.
How many of you have what I would refer to either professional staff or senior student staff that are responsible solely for officials? Sort of.
We have, we have an intramural programmer, and then we have student staff, which are responsible for each of the leagues, like league
Yep.
supervisors. And sometimes it'll just be per sport, or it might be a couple, depending on their class schedule and how comfortable they are.
But by and large, it's from what I'm gathering, it's generally more a junior student that's in charge of dealing with officials. Would that be fair?
Each sport coordinator deals with their own officials.
Okay, and
That's how we do it. Yeah.
okay. That's how we do it at UBC, but I would consider I've got my director for each sport, and they delegate that to an assistant director within each sport who's in charge of officials. So it's interesting just to see the diversity in terms of, I mean, I'd love to be able to be the person who onboards people, although I don't know how to ref ice hockey whatsoever. Every other sport I got.
Can't skate, so
Yeah, I can barely skate. Maddie?
For Tim, when you have your participants reffing, how do you train them to be a ref?
Well, I mean, we really only do it in flag football. Like, well, I guess volleyball and those kind of things, but it's a little different. Huh?
Football would be one where if you potentially get a little heated.
Again, because they're not the head official, really they're like moving the pylon or, or deciding whether the player was down or not. So they don't have as much of it. It'd be like having refs and linesmen, right? So they're basically the linesmen. So I don't think it's really, but they do a session with them before with the head football official talking to them about what their responsibilities are. But of course, then they don't show up and someone else
For
comes
each
to the
team,
team.
or before the season starts?
Just for the season. So
And so each team has set people that
they're supposed to, and then usually it's someone else who shows up anyways. So,
Yeah.
so you just kind of roll with it. You realize it's kind of the issue that you're dealing with, and you just kind of have to go with it. But I don't know. I think we can do a better job of trying to train. Even like inner tube water polo right now, we have complaints from teams about the quality of our inner tube water polo refs. I'm like, where do you think we get inner tube water polo?
Yeah.
National certified.
Same with dodgeball, yeah.
What kind of numbers are we talking here? Like, how many referees does each group have?
I hire about 150.
For all of our sports.
I mean, probably because we send so much out to the community, probably only 40 kids or something.
Would just to have something to something to sink your teeth into, would it be appropriate to say a classroom portion would be something across Western Canada that would be appropriate in terms of a standard for training of our officials, the ones we do in-house at least? Anybody have an issue with that? As sort of, I mean, what we're trying to do here is establish some baselines that we say this is sort of the minimum that's acceptable, this is actually what's reasonable, and this is sort of what we're reaching for.
I'd like to get closer to that for sure. Like even just our volleyball officials, some of them are certified and some of them aren't. To have them all come together and talk about some game management techniques and things, I think that would be key. So I agree. I think that would be something to work for.
Yeah. Yeah, not saying we're all there, but it's something to work towards is, however you want to define it, whether it's Waterloo's 4-hour session or if it's a 30-minute, just quick briefing before their first game or something like that. We can put that down. Now, sort of the next thing is, how many hours are you training your officials, especially the ones who are brand new to the sport? Obviously, if you've got returners or certified officials, there's less training that is required. But if you've got someone who's, I've played basketball in high school at JV level, and I want to make some money on campus, which I'm sure is a vast majority of the officials that we hire, how many hours are we, as a group, collectively, generally putting into training these people? Lainey, how many do you?
It's like survival of the fittest with us. We're like very casual.
Okay.
We do mass rec staff training where whether you're customer service, fitness, intramurals, whatever, we do like a 4 or 5 hour training session in September and in January. And then there's basic, yeah, that's right. I stole that model
Yeah.
from
Familiar with that.
And then we break up basically into like our division teams and chat about intramurals and fitness and stuff. But I mean, it's like, have you played soccer? Do you know the rules of soccer? Yep, you have a supervisor that'll back you up, and here's your whistle. Good luck.
Okay. So minimal, I would say. Okay, fair.
But it's similar. That's just the reality.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, but it's so true, right? We're in a situation where we can't spend the time that we need to get them ready, and then it's
sometimes it's a law of diminishing returns, right? You put all this time and effort into them when.
They're just going to, oh, actually, I don't like this a week later.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I'm going to get yelled at? No, thanks.
This is awesome. You can have it back.
Yeah, like we have a sport manager on call, like similar, someone sort of said that, so like Anna or her her coworkers are there for the night, so they're kind of, they deal if there's any issue that comes up or anything like that, but some of our sports, our co-rec leagues, we've gone with the model of, it's actually better to not have an official
Than to have a bad one.
than to have an official that's not confident, because then the teams are more likely to be honest with themselves and
for
run
sure.
themselves
Yep.
better. Whereas with basketball, we've had, like, if there's an official who's not confident enough and we don't have really the resources or time to provide them with that confidence, it's better to basically just have a scorekeeper. Because if there's somebody there, the teams are relying on that person to blow the whistle and make the call, and
Yep.
they're going to play more aggressively, relying on that ref. Whereas if you just don't have a ref and there's somebody there basically supervising, the game is going to go better,
And I
and
think
the
it's
league is going to
important.
be
That's a
better.
good point.
No,
because
absolutely.
I think it's really important that players understand what their role is too.
Yeah.
Right? So most players assume because there's an official, then everything's taken care of. We can do whatever we want. 'Cause
Yeah.
The official's going to call it.
Yeah.
So depending on the level of that official, whether they're good or not, or whether they actually show up is another one. I think
Yeah.
we're all in a better situation to say, we have no official. And then the level of the play drops accordingly.
Yeah, players expect the referee to stop them instead of stopping themselves.
Exactly,
Yep.
and that's what we've run into.
Somehow there's no responsibility because there's an official.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
So most of our co-rec leagues basically have a scorekeeper.
That's it. Yeah.
That's the model that we've pretty much gone to. I mean, the players might look to that scorekeeper to say, like, you know, was it in or out or whatever for, say, volleyball?
And you're just sort of a neutral observer at that point.
Basically.
Yeah.
And like we get them to say like I'm here just to supervise. Like we make it a point to say that.
Yeah.
like,
Don't ask for our call on this. How many, for an on-court practical game situation training, how many people are doing 2 or more hours per official? 1 or more?
Well, it's kind of dependent. I mean, we don't
Okay.
have any like formal, but when I schedule new refs in, I always make sure that they're with experienced refs. So
Okay, so the sort of shadow shifting.
yeah, it's kind
Okay.
of thrown to the wolves, but at least they have someone there to help them.
Is there anybody who's doing formal training, on-court training of an hour or less? That's our standard at UBC, is an hour. It's an hour training session before they're allowed to the ref their first game.
Do it like once a semester.
We'll go into the next thing. Yes. Yep. Paid session, yep. Although we pay our officials so little. It's reasons why we're having this discussion.
We're not talking about it.
Yeah. What up, minimum wage? My bad. All right, so the next sort of thing here is, what do you do to get people up to speed who join you midway through the semester or, 3 weeks in or whatnot? That's where we really struggle, is we're really good at establishing the standard that no official gets on that court until they've had their hour training session. It's really easy when you can get 20 of them in that first session, and then you've got refs for the next 3 weeks. But then midterms come up, and then papers are due, and we need a new ref because 3 of them just quit. How are we going to make sure we get this person trained? Do you guys have any strategies that you guys have found effective? Yep.
Well, this is my first year in this position.
Yep.
So, like what I've done with like a newer hire, I would just like, if it's just one person, have them in the office, just go over the manual, just like some expectations so they're aware of everything. Their role as in that sport. And then it's more like a discussion, so it doesn't take too long.
So it's just that one-on-one interaction?
Yeah.
Okay. That's generally the way we approach it too. We take our ref development coordinator, one of the assistant director positions, and it is a one-on-one session. Not terribly effective or efficient, unfortunately, but otherwise you just wait until another group appears, and by then, if you're waiting for another group, it means you've lost a bunch of officials and you've got games that are under-officiated at best. All right, anything else? Would it be fair to say, once again, sort of I'm just extrapolating this from the conversation here, a classroom portion of some kind before an official is ready to go, and maybe a practical component of some kind before an official of some kind. You know, whether it's here, show me all the different hand signals for basketball or volleyball or whatever, or you're able to bring them out in a game situation. What we do actually, some of my staff rather ingeniously decided they were going to officiate drop-in as just a way to practice. They just go upstairs whenever drop-in's happening. Hey, do you guys mind if we practice officiating? And they don't care, right? They're just there to shoot around and whatnot. And we've found some success with that for sure. Paid, of course, unfortunately, but. All right, next, evaluation. So this is where we really fall down at UBC. Is obviously the numbers are a struggle, but keeping track of who's going to be that person that's going to say, yes, you are doing a good job, and no, you aren't. Who's that expert? It kind of comes back to who's doing the training with regards to head officials, or whether it's the professional staff, or if you've got senior student staff that are assigned to that. And I think one of the things that we really struggle with is what is actually being evaluated here. Are you being evaluated on your control of the game in very sort of subjective terms, or are you saying you missed 13 different calls over the course of this 3-hour shift? It's this, and this, or are you going back to you didn't have very firm control of the game, things got a little out of hand? Talk me through this, or is it a combination of both?
We send on-site supervisors to not all of our games, but as many as we can. Especially like some of our leagues aren't officiated, but the ones that are officiated, we try as many as possible.
And your supervisors are generally people that are quite familiar with the sport?
Yeah, they're usually refs that have been with us for multiple years.
So supervisor is generally a position above a sport official?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's same with ours.
We have a checklist sheet that we give them, they fill the checklist out at the general comment section, and then those get turned into me, and then I pass on the information to the league manager.
The level of evaluation is more to a general level than it is to like specifics on evaluating their officiating style or the.
It's like professionalism.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Were they in position? Do they have rapport? Did the game start on time? If there was an incident, how do they deal with the incident? Right, those types of things. We try to explain to our officials as much as we can that being an official is more than just refereeing the game. They're more of an educator about what campus rec is about, and sort of the philosophy and the idea behind why we play what we do.
Yeah.
So they need to do that and sort of educate our players a bit. So when we evaluate more on that end of things, because that tends to be where most of our problems stem from.
Yeah.
It's also easier to evaluate.
Yes.
We don't have the manpower, or the person power, or the ability to evaluate their refereeing styles or their abilities there. So.
But even even someone who's unfamiliar with the sport can be like, I don't know futsal, but I know that's not how it's supposed to go.
Yeah.
And you're not controlling this.
Pretty clear picture that if you have your phone in your hand and you got earphones in and you don't need to court,
Yeah. Oh, I'd agree. How often are you guys evaluating? Is it once per year, once per semester?
We do mid-semester and semester.
So you're getting 2 evaluations per semester, okay? Anybody doing more than that? You do about 2, or you do more?
We do quite a bit.
How many are you guys doing?
Well, it depends on the sport again. Like,
Mhm.
For futsal, I don't have as many this term just because all my refs are returning from last semester and most from last year. So I know when we have really good futsal refs. Let's say basketball, we're not as strong, so we have more on basketball.
So it's you guys react to it based on sort of the skill level and the.
Yeah, like one thing I use it for is say scheduling. If I'm getting reports that the one ref isn't as strong or assertive, I'm not going to put them on competitive men's basketball.
For sure.
Recreational.
Does anybody not do evaluations at all? Wow.
We deal with situations as they come up. So if there's complaints, then I'll ask my staff to spend more time supervising that specific official and give them the
but it is one-on-one. I mean, that's a type of evaluation for sure.
Yeah, we almost never do it.
Okay. One of the things that we have been mandated sort of by the university is this idea that all the jobs that students are doing on campus have a learning outcome. And that's why we've started to really hunker down on these are evaluations. This is where you as a student are growing. This is where you still need, I mean, it's playing nice with the rest of the university, so we're speaking the same language, and in turn, maybe they can start to kick back some funding.
Are they work study students?
No, but this is our goal, so they get on to work study.
Is the outcome that they decide they don't want to be our officials anymore?
Most of the time, absolutely.
I learned I don't like this.
Yeah, getting yelled at for no reason is not fun. Okay.
Tier 3 hockey is not the show.
Fact. Although one of the, just as a general point, I find going back to the games that you'd rather not have an official as compared to have a poor official, I find that the higher the tier, the less that's the case. I find at the higher tiers, the players seem to have more respect for the game than at the lower tiers. We get more serious incidents at the upper end. We get way more incidents at the lower end, just because of ignorance of the game and just
The knowledge of the rules at least is
yeah.
higher.
It almost feels like the cockiness is higher at the lower levels, whereas the higher levels, they just kind of, they know where they stand in life.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's the mix of athletes too, right? At the lower levels, you may have some good athletes
Yeah.
playing, but you're also playing with some rec people. So then when the rec people have something happen to them, they don't understand.
They don't know how to
the
react,
game, and
yeah.
They don't react appropriately to it.
Yeah, you see it.
Still gonna make the show.
Tier two hockey for us is as soon as that guy sort of gets rubbed out on the boards, he's looking, where did I get hit, and he's beelining it right for the guy again. Where in elite, they get rubbed out. It's like, oh, that's who that was. Okay, file it away. I'll deal with it when it's appropriate, and I'll rub them out back, and it's okay, we both got minors, big deal. Instead of, oh, I'm going to track him down and punch him in the back of the head, a la Bertuzzi. Only one of those so far this year. Okay, now as a result of the evaluations, how many of you guys are promoting to higher tier games or a different wage scale based on their evaluations, or is it just a time frame? Ian?
Ours is more of a higher pay scale.
It's positive evaluations.
Yeah. We'll give them a raise the next semester.
Is anybody using the evaluations to determine who's eligible to ref which divisions?
Yeah.
You guys are? That's our goal in theory. I think we struggle with it to implement it just based on lack of officials.
You're curving, Jen. You're curving.
That's the appropriate answer. Yeah. And yeah. All right, is there anything else sort of on the evaluation side? Would it be fair to say on this point that we'd one evaluation per official per year is sort of a baseline? Not exactly ideal, and what we're able to do with that, I think, would be very different and dynamic in terms of what our responsibilities and what our different different structures within any of our programs. But Sarah, yeah.
Well, actually, just over the last couple of years, we've done a service excellence initiative, and one aspect of that is a reflective coaching model. It's not 360 right now, but we spend a lot more time. Let's say the intramural programmer.
Yep.
She'll take the time to coach each one of the league managers, so they would have a goal, let's say, for this week, and then you reflect on it and talk about how you were doing. What did you find difficult? What did you do?
Is it sort of a mentorship program as well?
It's really one-on-one.
Okay.
It's different for all the league managers.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
We're implementing that slowly. It's not necessarily as consistent.
But that's sort of where you'd like to get. Okay. Yeah. Like I said, what we're trying to establish here are where we'd like to be, not necessarily where we are, and just sort of as a model. Yep.
Evaluation is a bit tough, I think, as well, because most of our officials, they're not like our league managers and our admin staff, where they eat, live, breathe campus rec, where they're passionate about what they do. Typically, our officials they understand the sport and they like the sport, but it's just a job.
Yeah.
Right? They want to come in, they want to ref, they want to go home, and we struggle a lot trying to get our group of people more engaged in what we do.
That'll be the next slide.
So at the end
Yeah.
of the year, when we have
Yeah.
awards banquets and all those kinds of things, we don't. So evaluating them is tough, but to get feedback back from them, because evaluation's always two-way.
Absolutely. Yep.
We really struggle because they're arm's length, and part of it is we I think overemphasize our international students. We have a higher than normal group of international students that ref for us compared to regular students.
Yeah.
And that group of students is just they don't come for it. They're not really interested in doing the other stuff.
Yeah.
So it's a real struggle for Riley. I know he works really hard for us to try to get a lot of but it is tough.
No, I agree completely. And that'll go into the next part here is the recognition piece. I think that's one of the biggest things that on our side, I would agree, our student volunteers, the administrators, it's a really strong culture, and I'd say most of us would agree it's a group of people that are very passionate about what they do. They're willing to put in the extra effort. And they're willing to just to sacrifice for volunteer jobs, like lowly paid jobs, or something that has nothing to do with their degree. Whereas at the officials level, we just don't see that generally. I'm sure all of us have a couple of examples where you have the official that's oh yeah, I'll learn how to do that sport for you because I know you really need help, and I'll take on all these extra shifts, and I'll just be that superstar that you can rely on. And generally those people then come into the administrative side of things as well. But one of the things that we're trying to do is develop that culture that we are so used to in the administrative side of things on the official side, and starting to find out what would keep them around. And one of the things that's come up, I'm sure a lot of us have awards, award banquets for our intramurals or for our officials. We've started to give free access. It's a paid event for our participants. We've started to give free access to our officials for that, especially if they're going to be one of the award recipients. We do the awards in front of not just, oh, hey, come in and get your Golden Whistle Award. It's, hey, come in, get recognized in front of a group of the people who have been yelling at you for the last 8 months. And, get to rub it in their face a little bit. And we've seen some success with that. Generally, our award winners and the people who come to the banquet are people who are willing to come back again the next year. How many of you guys do, as sort of as merit-based promotions, do you guys do cash bonuses or any sort of bonus swag or anything like that for outstanding officials?
We have officials a month that will give them
Like prize pack or?
stuff like that. And when we say we had our Christmas party, they all got nice hoodies.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. That's great.
This area we really fall short on. We reward a lot of our other staff
Yeah.
in a lot of ways, but trying to convince my colleagues to give them a free whistle even. They're like, oh, they can buy their own whistle. I'm like, wow, really? That's all
Yeah,
you're gonna give them?
60 cents.
So,
We're gonna scrimp on that.
Sporty, so a little more
Oh, it's true. Yeah.
But, I think that's an area where we fall down, and we're not giving, even like stashing with them T-shirts and stuff. I think we're missing out on a lot of that. So we shouldn't be too surprised when they don't want to come back.
No, I agree. Yeah.
And you look around in the room today, you see everybody wearing their colors and their
Proudly.
People have stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then our officials, because they get a check, these guys get checks too, right? So why wouldn't we also recognize them at the same level? And we try, but we don't do nearly enough. We have a little bit, but not nearly enough.
Does anybody do like a cash bonus? Any outstanding officials or anything like that?
We
No.
talked about it at the end of the term, if they make all their shifts, giving them a cash bonus, like an extra $1 per hour or something like that. We've never gotten to that point, but we've talked about it quite a bit. It's just trying to be that incentive of, if you make all your shifts, here's a bonus. But we haven't actually done
Haven't been able to implement it yet. Yeah.
I think
First.
that we're really behind on that. Like, we don't have any banquets, we don't have any awards, honestly, and that's for all student staff. For the rec, we have that for athletics and for the varsity athletes.
Okay. Yep.
But we don't have that at all for any of the rec students. There is like a scholarship that you can apply to they'll write a huge essay and they only select 5 people.
Which is
So,
on top of all the other scholarships people are applying for.
yeah.
Yep.
I was gonna say, like, we don't necessarily like have any budget to give away big prizes like that, but what we do is like per semester, like last semester we took them to like hockey game, we took them for dinner, so it's like recognize like everyone
Integration with the
involved.
varsity side, that's a great
Like,
idea.
it's relationship building too, and like staff retention. And then we'll do something this semester, and then we have like a year-end banquet with the athletes and the staff, and that, like you said, it'll be a point to like recognize the athletes in front of, or other way around, officials in front of the athletes.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think something that's
Different cultures.
well, and that's why we all have different cultures. But I think something being able to take them out to, and I'm sure most of our athletics departments would, be able to pony up some free tickets for whatever empty game is happening here.
Do your students get free access to varsity games anyway?
No.
Our
Oh, really?
students- our
Oh, do they already? Okay. And then maybe that's
We don't take them. They wouldn't even know, right? They pay with their student fees.
Yeah.
On the side, and most students don't understand they get free access to varsity games anyway. So we could also
He's
say,
like,
hey,
we're
we'll take
taking
to the
you to a
game.
college.
Yeah.
Just make sure you bring your student
Yeah,
card.
please
Yeah.
Take it
All
to the
right.
game. Yeah. Oh, thanks, Carrie.
No problem.
For the
My
people-
pleasure. It's on me.
For the people that do have banquets, is there, like, what degree are you involved with like sponsorships? Are there any partners that sponsor these events, or is it just coming out of your budget specifically?
Or some of it's from our student body, which is like SAFSA, so they like run like the student events, so we go to them, and we have like the campus like pub, they're helping with their host, that's where the event is. So we just go like around campus, and like our catering company, like the food services around campus, we have like a partnership with them, so we just created partners and just,
Ours don't come. We offer
True.
some, we say you get free food, you get free beer. They don't come.
really.
Yeah,
Yeah, they
more
don't.
for us.
Yeah.
They don't know.
And then for awards, what is that, like a trophy? Is this like swag? Is this,
For us, it's literally a little golden whistle.
okay, yeah.
Costs about $15, one per sport. It's not a huge expenditure. I'd say about 6 of my 9 pick it up every year, and they're the ones that come to our banquet, and because we have 2 different banquets. We have our administrative one that we recognize our administrative staff, and then we have our one for our participants. The participants have to pay. It's where we recognize all the winners for all the year in all of our events, tournaments, races, leagues, single events, things like that. And that's one where we recognize the officials because we want to do it in front of the people they officiate, not although it might be better to bring them to our staff one, although we have more officials than we have staff,
Just so you
so
know,
doubling it.
it's running out of
We're running out of time. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, I think our recognition program is a bit different than everybody else's, is that we are department-wide. So it's not necessarily separated out from intramurals from the department. And so we have an internal program called the Limit Program where they nominate each other for awards, and it could be professional staff
Yeah.
or student staff, doesn't matter. And what was unique this time around for our semester, huge staff training, all the professionals, all our student staff, officials included, is we built our awards night into it so they could get the more recognition out of it.
Yeah.
And so for me, this is my first semester for semester launch. I just started in October. I took over from Bradshaw.
Oh, yeah.
So it was sort of a difficult choice for me to be able to recognize somebody, but I purposely chose an official to be recognized from the intramural through in front of everyone because I think the standard is usually is the sports supervisor or
Yep.
one of our managers.
Would at least some sort of recognition piece for all officials be something we'd agree on as a baseline, as something that's at least to start that culture piece? Whether they come pick it up or not, that's obviously a bit of a challenge, but we all have our methods of coursing people into the office.
If they're not valuing it, is there a point in?
But I think some of them will, maybe not all of them, and generally those will be the ones that aren't going to stick around anyways.
And yes,
And you would just want to build that core that you can build on. Ian?
Have you ever had a reference call saying, I'm calling on a reference on behalf of Tim Harris. He's listed the golden whistle as an achievement.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
How is that good?
I mean, it's usually when they're applying for other sport organizations
Yeah.
is when I get those calls, but they do reference it once in a while.
I would.
2-time golden whistle dodgeball. All right, last section here. So we sort of touched on it, the community building, promotions. One thing I would like to ask, how many people have a sports officials club on campus? You guys do?
Oh, no, sorry. I'm thinking of something else.
Okay.
Sports club, sorry.
Yes. It's something that's very common in the States that I haven't seen it gain any traction here in Canada. I don't know what the reasoning for it is, but it would be nice if we could start to develop something along those lines I don't know how, there's a big, massive athletics review going on at UBC right now. But one of the things that's also occurring is a lot of the sport clubs, we might actually start to develop a sport club model at UBC, which is what most of you guys already do. We don't have a sport club model whatsoever. But at the same time, I think that's what I'm going to try and do there is to integrate a sport officials club. And there's only going to be 4 or 5, I'm sure, that start in it. But they'll have friends. Students are always the best advocates for themselves, as much as we as professionals like to think we can promote and inspire. If your buddy says this is fun, you're much more likely to hear that. And that's sort of where I'm looking towards as a way to start develop that community on campus, because apparently it does exist in the States and it does exist back east. It just doesn't seem to happen out west here. Anything else? I think I'm out of time.
Yeah, you're pretty much out of time.
Okay.
That's okay. Thank you everyone for participating.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thank you, Tristan, for facilitating this roundtable. So this is on behalf of everyone
Thank you.
at WCCLC.
So I'll take these notes home. I'll distribute to everyone sort of the key points, the baselines that we established, and if we want to continue the discussion, by all means, email, phone, whatever. We all have the contact database is pretty extensive now that we've got for WCCRC, which is great. So, thank you very much, and enjoy lunch. Oh.